Call to order the Charter Township of Independence Township of Independence and Clarkston Community Schools Video Center Administrative Board regular meeting. And let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's do roll call.
I'm here.
Does the treasurer or the secretary do roll call?
I do the roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Do I ask the names, or people just go down the road?
Typically, you'd ask the name to see if, and they'd respond with here.
I don't know if you have a cheat sheet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't need a cheat sheet. I'm good. Steve Heyer.
Here.
John Elke.
Here.
Matt Blow.
Here.
Rob Namowitz.
Here.
Now that gentleman there, I'm not sure.
John Barry.
That's right.
Here.
Okay, gotcha. And then there's one absent, I believe, right?
Yep, Leanna Hahn, excused absence.
Lee. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm here. So we don't, can I get an approval for the agenda? We don't have any additions or deletions.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have no carryover or postponed agenda items, so we're going to move right to regular business. Number one, request to approve minutes from February 18th, 2026.
I move to approve the Video Administrative Board minutes for February 18th, 2026 as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second item on the agenda for regular business, it's discussion creating a strategic plan, and it's brought by Stephen Heyer.
Awesome. So I had a conversation with Mr. Elke after the last meeting, I think. We're at a point now where, the Video Center Board is established. Things are going well. And, we don't really have a process for saying, hey, Video Center Board members, like, what do you think makes sense to focus on at our Video Center Board meetings, or how do we come together or help, or what are our goals for the next year, the next quarter? In front of us, where do we want to be in 5 years? We don't have any kind of long-range planning or vision to that, and I thought it would be a good idea and a good time, and being that we're not putting out any fires and we've got a great staff and they're running things very smoothly, for us as a board to provide some high-level direction maybe on what our collective vision is for the Independence Television and our board, and then work with the staff to put some plans in place to say, hey, what are our goals this year? What are our longer term goals and short term goals, and how do we work toward that? And certainly, I'm sure Mr. Elke is going to talk about PEG fees as we get to the budget item coming up here next. How are we going to deal with that? What does that look like? And so far it's fine. We know where it's going, and before too long we'll have to deal with that in a more affirmative kind of way. But that was my thinking behind really bringing this to the agenda. I'd love to hear your thoughts if that's something you'd be interested in, and you can certainly say no, and we can continue to cook along the way we've cooked along for the last 5 or 6 years here, or it is something that we could embark upon and have a strategic plan for our Independence Television and our board.
Yeah, agreed. I think it'd be interesting to see the thoughts on where you want to take the board, where you want to take your organization in the next 2, 3, 4, and 5 year.
I think from a standpoint of understanding future capital investments and things like that are forecasted out, and so we have a good understanding of what would be coming up for budgeting and things like that, I think might be valuable.
So John, do you have a lack of work?
No.
So what kinds of things do you think that you would like to see within the next 2, 3, 4 years from us as a board, and
Well, when Steve brought this up, I thought it was a really good idea because I think it's a great idea because as a board and as a staff, I think collectively we have an idea of what we want to accomplish and what our goals are from an organizational standpoint. But the point that was brought forward is, well, we don't have that officially written down anywhere. We don't have a strategic plan or a mission statement or anything that really we can point to and say this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it and this is what we're striving to do. And, you know, we're doing this because it aligns with our goals to accomplish this. I think it's a smart idea from an organizational standpoint, especially when you're talking about funding potentially down the road. If we are going to have to go out and seek alternative funding from, elsewhere, we'll just say businesses as an example. It doesn't have to be businesses, but if we're going out to seek funding from businesses, it would be smart for us to have a strategic plan that we can present to them to say this is what we are doing for the community and this is why we're doing it. So they have concrete evidence of, okay, they've shown me exactly what this organization is, what they're striving for, what their goals are. I can get behind this organization. I think something like that would be probably paramount in the next few years. Like I said, if down the road we have to think of alternative funding methods, that would probably be an important step to take to have this plan in place, in my opinion. And from the board standpoint, I think it's another hopefully constructive way to engage our board. I know Steve said he was looking for a constructive way to engage the board, but also in an appropriate manner. And I think that this really aligns with something where the staff can work with the board and we can do this collectively. We've always done things collectively. I'm not saying that we haven't, but I think it's something that is very constructive that our board can accomplish and give us as a staff a good alignment of what we want to do next. So it's not one position of the board or staff directing where this organization goes. We're doing it together from this mindset. So in my opinion, I think it's a good step forward from our organizational standpoint. I think we're doing well where we're at, but if we want to continue to progress in the way that we have been, I think this is a good next step.
And I would even add to that, like, we know the future of PEG fees are uncertain. That is our primary budget. There could be a time not too distant in the future where we're going, okay, what money sources can we get from businesses? Might we have to go to the school board or township board and go, hey, PEG fees are dropping. Is there a way we can, shore up some funds so we can continue to do all the stuff we've been doing or maybe even improve upon it? And I think having more of this stuff kind of crystallized, written down, just makes that better argument for when or if the day comes where we got to go to school board or township board, we can say, hey, now we've done our homework. We've done our due diligence. Here's all the stuff we're working on. Here's what we're trying to do. And I think that can become a more compelling case, especially if the time comes where we're going, hey, we need more money.
Yeah, right now the entire institutional memory is, in a few folks' heads, so to speak. And I think, crystallizing that and memorializing that of like, this is what our place is, in the community. And obviously the school system sees the value and is 100% supportive. People are going to change, there'll be new people in new positions. And we want to, I think this process really cements like, what is the place of independence television in our community? What do we see that role in? And even as we were to recruit, new video center board members, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to say, hey, this is where we're going. Here's the plan. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be a part of this? Right now it's, we're going to hand them an intergovernmental agreement and a capital lease and some bylaws, which you still hand them all those, governing documents, but it would be great to say, hey, here's some of the goals and things we're working toward, and what we see our place in the community. Because there's some, certainly some standard things that we do as an organization, right? I mean, we cover some, standard events for the respective entities, every year. And we've dabbled in things like, summer camp that's growing right now, and it would be great to have a vision, is the goal to just make that bigger and bigger and bigger? Is there a spring break camp? Is there a holiday break camp? I mean, where does that go? We've looked at sponsorships and things and, how that fits in. I think just really having a plan for those things, because right now, right? I mean, like right now we're pretty busy as a staff with the current workload. Like, is that the right amount of staff? You know, like if we did sponsorships, right? Once upon a time, we were like, let's really push the sponsorship thing for a little bit. Well, like we just don't have anybody do that right now, and like we don't really need it for survival at this point. You know, and that's how we're operating. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're very successful, I think, at how we're doing things. But I think it would be beneficial to our community and our respective organizations to, you know, really put our heads all together and say, this is where we want to go. You know, this is what we are, and this is where we want to go. This is what it looks like in 10 years. You know, these are what we're going to work. These are the things we're going to work on in, you know, this year to get us, you know, to that longer range place. So if you're all on board, we can.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and I think it's absolutely true, because it's just like anything, as the PEG fees are going down. I mean, do you have a projected time of when you think that that's going to just be not even, you know what I mean? It's becomes now a percentage of your operating budget instead of.
Yeah, I'll touch base a little bit more on it with the budget discussion, but we had substantial loss from last year to this year from PEG fees. We were on pace to hit our budget number after quarter 2, but quarter 3 and quarter 4 really dipped a lot lower than we are anticipating. So there's signs that this is depleting to at a rate that is faster than we're anticipating. Now, there is also some good news as well associated with this, but it's all hypothetical at this point with new legislation that would continue on this organization from a community media standpoint in the state of Michigan, which I can touch on a little later. So I'm not completely giving up on the PEG fee model quite yet, but I don't think it would be responsible to not look at other options as well and put all our eggs in one basket and say, you know, hoping for the best. I think it's important for us to kind of have, as I think last year, at this time I presented 2 different budgets. One budget was if everything's really great, and one budget is if the bottom falls out. This is how we're going to operate. So we're always kind of operating in that mindset of operating within our means, and not only what we have now, but what, based on projections, what we could have to ensure that we can survive. Now, looking at everything, I'd say probably 5 years is when things would probably get extremely tight for us from an annual operating budget standpoint, to do everything that we're doing currently, to keep doing it at the same rate. And that's just looking at projections as they were. Now, if things, especially in 26, continue to decrease at the rate they were in quarter 3 and quarter 4, then that might accelerate a little bit. But hard for me to completely put a number on it, but I'd say less than 5 years is our window.
Well, I certainly think we need to be prepared for that scenario, to at least where we have a vision and a goal and something to present to somebody that may want to, you know, if we have to start partnering with advertisers, right? You know, if we get a grant or however it may be, but we have to at least show them what we're doing. And what, you know what I mean? Because you just knock on a door and say, hey, I'd like some money.
Yeah.
Well, what are you guys doing? Well, we have a video, you know, we have a YouTube channel, and, you know, and all the different things that we do. And, you know, without a, you know, basically I want to say a flyer or some kind of a packet to put together to present to people, and, you know, and be prepared for that. Is that something that you think that we could be prepared for by the end of this year, for 2027 going into it?
To have a full packet put together, I guess I'd have to have more information as far as like what the board would want to see in that packet. I think currently I've been working on a project of a Plan B situation of what independence television looks like, funding if PEG goes away. How would this work? There's a plethora of different options that I'd be happy to present to the board that I'm putting together that could I'm going to say could be a replacement. It's always hard for me to say could be a replacement because we operate at $218,000 annually. It's really hard, in my opinion, to replace that all in one spot.
Sure.
We would probably have to look at a lot of different grants, different funding avenues, partners, and everything like that to fill that bucket full.
Right.
And that's, like I said, to continue doing what we're doing. Now, when you look at the budget, when I present it next, you'll notice that for the most part, based on the projections of PEG fees that we've been getting, we have been operating within that projection. We have not been operating at the full 218,000. We've been operating within the projected amount that we were supposed to get. And this is all, from the cable companies and everything like that. So from our standpoint, at least in the last couple of years, we've been trying to do our best, one, to be good stewards of the capital that we've been given, but two, to understand that we need to start changing the way that we operate to ensure that we can keep doing everything we want to do with the funds that we're going to be given. So that's just been kind of a mindset that we've worked in the last couple of years to be ready for this point, I guess you could say. To go back to your question, I'm sorry.
That's
to go
okay.
back to your question, if we had a definitive list of what would look in that packet, I
Right.
think I could get something together by the end for our November meeting to present to the board, and that would be ready for 27 for sure. But just,
And
I
think-
guess I'd need more direction from the board of what you'd be looking for.
Like this discussion sort of underscores, I feel like, the need for doing some sort of strategic planning, and that, like, when we want to do that collectively, like we need to look at that, right? We need to understand, all right, how, when do we expect that? And it shouldn't be up to Mr. Elke to just decide, right? And it shouldn't be up to us in a vacuum to come to a meeting and be like, yeah, that looks like a good plan, let's do that, right? Like, we want to have a little bit more thought and a
Discussion,
little bit, longer term engagement on something as critical as, how do we plan for survival? Because, like, to your point, right, like, we're not spending all of our money every year. We typically budget all of our money every year, and then we underspend, which is not a terrible place to be. But, what is the right amount of money that we're going to spend? What does it look like if we're a $100,000 organization? And okay, if we want to slim down and save more money while we have the PEG fees in hopes of, saving that money to give us more longevity, like, that's a strategy, that we should at least discuss and be on the same page with. There's another strategy of, let's replace the revenue and let's continue operating and, spend more to get more, kind of a thing. If we hire another staff member, what does that gain for us? What does that allow us to do? And is that part of the plan? And so right now we're making all these decisions in a vacuum as they come up, and we have to deal with them. But it would be good to know, like, hey, if we want to get to this place, what do we got to do along the way, and make those decisions a little more careful.
Yeah, and having a vision, I would say, is the best bet to get there. So where do you want to take it?
Absolutely.
So my thought was, by saying that, it was more or less of just like a sales package in case that we do have to go out and get grant. That's all I really was focused on. We can have it. We don't have to use it. But of course, if you're going to be asking somebody for money, you're going to have to show them what you're going to give them, right? And then you're going to have to, we don't know what that is, but certainly, that this is where we have to sit down and discuss, well, what kinds of things, or do we go to somebody and say, hey, we've never asked for sponsors before. So what are we going to provide our sponsors that's going to get them some return on their investment, other than out of the goodness of their heart? Obviously, some of it is there's a benefit there, right?
Absolutely.
To the community.
And we've done that before.
Okay.
And we have rules about what is acceptable and not acceptable, and what format that we're broadcasting in, and given the fact that we're a PEG funded entity. For the most part, and so we've kind of explored all those things. The sort of fork in the road is, like, if you need to raise 10 grand doing that, like, that's a completely different process than if you're trying to raise 100 grand,
Right.
doing that, and, like, what does that really look like? And I certainly would not. The staff that we have currently is very, very talented in many different areas that lend itself to having an awesome, independent television organization. Like, sponsorship sales, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, I don't think we have anybody on staff currently that, like, just knows sponsorship sales. That's not a natural sort of a place for our staff to be. And so, that's some of the bigger conversations. And the good news is, right, like, we're not facing some imminent emergency.
Right.
You know, we're still putting money in the bank every year. We're really planning for, like, what does that 5 or 10 year window look like? What do we want to be then? And if we say, all right, this is what we want to be, then we've got to figure out how to be that. And that may be, you know, looking at diversity and revenue streams. I think Mr. Elke is going to talk about investments. You know, I mean, there might be a investment strategy part of that, of, you know, how we raise some dollars that way. It might be some partners and different components. You know, if we cover different things, does that potentially come with, you know, some dollars attached to it? And ultimately, if we want to get really creative and I'll say, quote unquote, sell services, you know, by way of raising money, like, okay, our sponsoring entities, like, have to be okay with that. You know, we've got to make sure that fits in our bylaws and, you know, our policy structure, and it fits the legal requirements of the township and the school district and all those things as well. So I think it's a longer term, longer tail sort of a process. And to get there and kind of answer those things affirmatively, you know, my idea would be, like, you know, let's have some sort of a strategic plan. And I don't see this as like a multi-year sort of a process. I don't think we need to hire a consultant. Like, I think this is a much more simple sort of a thing of where we plan some conversations over the next maybe several board meetings that end up being a little longer. But we formulate some of those things to provide that vision, and then work toward, you know, filling in the plan. And then that gives us some things to work with on an annual basis as well, of like, hey, what are we working on this year? You know, and what do we need? You know, and I think that helps from a budget resource allocation standpoint, you know, from an organizational structure standpoint, and then even, you know, from a marketing standpoint, you know, as well, of, you know, telling our respective organizations and the community, you know, what are we and what do we want to be?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important too to have that information if we have to go to even the boards to ask for more money, right? Because they're going to go, that's great, you need money. We see what you've done. What do you plan on doing, and what do you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. So obviously they're going to be looking for that, and you obviously, you know, you put some really good presentations together anyway. So, but I like the idea of at least having a mission statement and some of the goals. So I think that that's something we should probably have on our next agenda for sure, to continue to discuss, and an opportunity for everybody else too to bring some ideas of
Sure.
where do they, you know, so we can talk about where this board and where we want to take this to the future within at least the next 5 years. I think 5 years is probably a good target at this point. So,
Yeah, I think from here, I mean, it sounds like you're all on board with this. You know, Mr. Elke and myself can kind of chat a little bit and brainstorm what this might look like, and then come up with some options on how we might tackle it. So, you know, I mean, adding time to our existing board meetings is one place. Depending on how much time we think we need, it might be a separate workshop meeting that we
Yeah,
would
that's what I
add.
was thinking.
You know, that we spend a couple hours and
Right.
you know, go through some things
In
and
a conference room, thinking about just
yeah.
working it out.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
So we
Probably
can.
the basic problem is that the original PEG was never intended to be a money-making thing. And now we're looking at, can we create a value that people are willing to pay for, however that happens? Which would lead me to the question of, is there any new parameter for viewership, for gauging viewership, other than just the social media? How many views? Is that the only measure that we have?
No, we were able to measure some views on our cablecast system using our live stream. We won't be able to get anything from the cable companies as far as our views, but we are able to look at the metrics from not only YouTube, but also our live stream as well. So if we wanted to, we could use those metrics for viewership, but I don't think it's a full encompass of everything. So it might be a
data
little,
point.
yeah,
And-
it might be a little short-sighted.
And Mr. Namowitz, I think, like, and you've been at this the longest, you know, and you have the long memory of, you know, what it used to be. You know, back when it was a tiny little building in front of what's now Renaissance High School. Back when it was like TCI, probably, you know,
Yes.
in those days, right? And I think to your question or statement or thinking out loud kind of shows that like what we were then in a traditional public access channel, right? Like we're so much more today,
But still fulfilling the PEG mission itself.
Absolutely.
Public, educational, and government.
Yep.
And doing a really good job of it.
absolutely.
I really think we need to boost viewership if it just we become cheerleaders for the channel.
I think with the planning, it comes down to like, is the channel the main thing? Or, I mean, that might be a tiny little sideshow, given all the projects and all the things that we, provide for the community. Like, the channel might be a tiny little thing, compared to, like, everything we can do online and what we could do with, the schools and the township and even some of our business partners and community partners and what we can offer. And I think, and I mean, obviously we win awards for what we do. There's other people that are similar to us. I think part of any of this process would be to go look at who's got the best one out there. Who are the top 5? What are they doing?
Kind of benchmark.
what's their vision?
What are they doing? And granted, I'm sure a few of them are in California. What is right for them may or may not be right for us, right? I mean, it's our job collectively to figure out like what works for Clarkston.
Well, if you YouTube ITV quite a bit, suddenly you find you're getting a lot of PEG channels from everywhere. Great fun. I know some of us don't have much of a life, but you could see a lot of it. One local example is Bloomfield. Bloomfield Television is very good. They have some talent there. They have a variety of shows, and their camera people show up at different events, just like our people show up at events. And to build a value with the umbrella of PEG and build a value of the viewership, it is a great service to the community. Maybe enough people in the community aren't aware of it. I talk it up, because we need eyeballs. It's just like anybody else on the interwebs, you need eyeballs. And we have a lot, we could have more. So
Well,
that's where the value will be.
we need value, right? Like,
Yes.
the engagement comes if we're providing value, and
And we do.
as we provide, and I can certainly speak more to the school side of things than the township side of things, but I mean, there's heavy demand for sports, there's heavy demand for things like graduation, and how do we monetize that, and not in a way like we're charging for the service, but obviously if you're watching and you appreciate it, like how do we say, hey, this is how you support us,
Yeah.
to make sure future classes get the same benefit, and that's all part of, I think, the kinds of things that we can work on. And I think collectively it's if we don't say this is what we want to flesh out and this is the time frame we want to do it in, right, it's not going to happen because we don't have any extra time to just sit around and think stuff up. Right, we're busy, so I think it all fits together. I think we're all of the same kind of mindset, but we have very different ideas, I'm sure, and some ideas we've never heard of and some ideas we can go look at and find elsewhere, but especially on a super volunteer board where we meet 4 times a year, I mean, like, our engagement is somewhat limited, in this, and I think you all have more to offer, and I think this is a way to, say, hey, we can contribute more at the board level. We're not micromanaging or running the day-to-day, but, if we set those high-level benchmarks, and then provide the resources to make it happen, I think we could be even better than we are right now.
Well, Steve, we're very fortunate we have a good product here.
Absolutely.
Well, and to kind of highlight some of the things I think you guys are also saying is, there's a lot of rules and regulations and restrictions when it comes to PEG, and when that's your main funding source, you got to take care of that. But as PEG fees wane or go away, then I think, the downside is that we lose the money, but maybe a potential upside is, we're less regulated with certain types of ways we could do videos or whatnot. So then what does that look like as well? If PEG goes away and we're all digital, we're all website or YouTube, what restrictions are now lifted because of that mechanism?
Right.
I mean, I don't think PEG is going to go away, but it's looking like it might fade away at least, but we'll see.
So I don't know if I don't see there's anything restricting us from having a special meeting to sit down and discuss this at a different time. I don't know if we can decide that now, or would you guys like to meet before our next regularly scheduled meeting?
Well, our next
Just sit down.
scheduled meeting's in September, so we've got some time.
Well, we definitely have to meet before that then.
Yeah, I would have to check with the school district just on the availability of the boardroom beforehand. If you guys if the board gives me a few dates, I can check that, and then I can send out an email. We can get something official on the books for an additional
Send out some
workshop.
recommendations.
And we were just chatting, like, this is the busiest time in the school and independence TV, world of leading into the end of April, May, and June. And so I think we can leave it somewhat open-ended, and like, I'd want to come up with a process, first of like,
Sure.
what does the end goal look like, and how do we back into what we want to do? And I think we can put some, thought into that, and certainly share that and get some individual feedback, from that. And then, we can do a doodle poll or something to see when we're available and, lock it in, so to speak.
Okay.
So with the pressures off the schedule, we'll have a little meeting.
Yep.
And, I don't know, the summer tends to be a challenging time to schedule something, right? If we looked at our vacation and travel calendars, trying to get them to line up, sometimes that's an impossibility. I don't know if it is or not, but, if we know what we need to do or what we want to do, we can start to slot in, what that looks like. Like, I don't think we want to meet like twice 6 months apart. I don't know that the momentum we want to have is going to be there, but I think there's definitely a way to get some things together that, the goal is not to say, hey, you volunteered for 4 meetings a year, and now it's going to be a whole bunch more. Like, that's not the goal. But I think we definitely want to tap into your expertise, and I think we can figure out how to operationalize this. And we can figure the process out, and maybe if nobody has an objection to that process, then we can work on scheduling that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would think that we would just need one meeting, and I think that if you throw enough dates out there and you pick whoever, obviously, even when we have these meetings, not everybody can make it, so whatever meeting or whatever date we can come up with where the majority of, the highest amount can make it, that would be the date we'd have it, so, okay,
Great.
we
Thank
need
you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's go to regular business item number 3. It's a request to approve Independence Television budget for 2026, 2027. John Elke.
Thank you, Board, very much for your time today and with this budget. I've got the budget listed on the packet. I'm going to be kind of going through it, but I also have a one sheet that I'm going to go over a little bit just to kind of give an overview of what we're looking at for our budget for 26, 27 upcoming. For those not as familiar with our budget cycle, and some of our new board members will just kind of go through this, but for our budget is operated on the school side. Now the school, it's in a separate fund, so we're the only ones that can manage this budget, but for purposes of our approval process, the school's budget's approved in July, so that's when, or June for July, that's when we have to have our budget for Independence Television approved as well. So I'm just going to start up at the top and kind of work through my notes. If you have any questions, please let me know. But from an overview, we will still stay steady at $218,000 per our intergovernmental agreement with Independence Township and Clarkston Community Schools. That's $200,000 coming from the township and $18,000 coming from Springfield Township. We do anticipate some additional revenue from summer media camp. Last year we brought in about $1,700, so I'm going to say about $1,500 just to be on the safe side. But I would still estimate about that net revenue, but depending on how costs go and everything like that, we'll put it at that. And also some additional income from the NFHS stream contract that we approved at our last meeting. So, and I'll touch base more on that later in the production update. But some important notes, things to watch for, is we are going to be renegotiating our expiring franchise agreement with DirecTV or AT&T for another 10 years, by October of this year. This is something that the township and I have already had conversations with. So the big thing that we'll be looking to do is increasing our 1.6% of PEG fees back up to a full 2%. That was negotiated at an earlier time. So hopefully that will be, we'll try and get as much PEG fees as we can while we can, is our mindset. So Comcast is next year, so the following year. So we'll have DirecTV in 26, Comcast in 27 for renegotiations. DirecTV has already reached out to us and provided a contract, so they are very much interested in renegotiating for another 10 years. This is a formality at this point. So for those unaware about franchise agreements and everything like that, for DirecTV to enter in a franchise agreement, it essentially allows them to be a customer provider of cable services in our area. So the benefit of them negotiating this contract with Independence Township is that they would be able to be a provider for their services in our area. So something to kind of keep watch at. Like I said, it expires in October, but I anticipate that we'll have this done before October. So just to allow it to go through the board process and everything like that. We also met with Kirsten Nag, the Clarkston Community Schools. We kind of redid our budget to more align with the budget that they have at the school side. This is something we've been talking about for a number of years. Independence Television, we created our own budget lines that kind of aligned with our goals and our spending, but that didn't always align with what was actually on the school side. Not that it ever caused any problems, but sometimes when we're saying we're spending from this account, well, the school doesn't have that account, so it's pulling from this account. Bottom line numbers were all the same, but it was just sometimes a little bit confusing when you're going through a budget because you're almost managing two separate budgets at that point. So what the hope was with this was just to kind of cut down on all the confusion, make things a little bit more simplified, and so that we're speaking the same language. So when I'm saying, we're spending from this account, they say, great, it's coming from that account. So just more communication and just to make things a little bit simpler on everybody's end. Moving forward, we also spoke about investment options with our fund balance. Now, our fund balance has been healthy, as you'll kind of see on the left-hand side with the bar graph. We have been contributing a number of percentage to our fund balance each year, and so I wanted to see, instead of that money just kind of sitting in our fund balance, if there was any opportunity for it to gain interest. And she said it was, and I said, oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that, but it was only at 0.03% a year. So I think last month we got maybe $100 on $600,000. I think we can do better than that. So she's going to be looking into a few different options that we might be able to do with the current banking institute or financial institute that the school district works with, and kind of present me back with some better options for investment. I feel like if we're not touching that money at this point, then it should be, gaining money for us. So hopefully I'll be able to bring that to the board once we get more information from the school districts as far as different options, but it's something that we are exploring for the upcoming years. You'll kind of notice as well from the budget from past years that we have an increase in other purchase services. We've just had some additional costs come up, especially with our live streams and everything like that. They do require service agreements in case anything does go wrong. For example, for our live streams that we instituted in 2023, they've been really great. It's HD live streams that people can watch on our website that we can embed anywhere we need to. It's also on the Cablecast app, so if you have a smart TV, you can just turn on ITV through your smart TV if you don't have traditional cable anymore, which we've found out that most people don't in this area. So we wanted to make sure that we're ready for the next step, and that was the live streams. This board approved the process of going through that route, and it has been a really good tool for Independence Television to also provide and to ensure that we're reaching every resident where they're at. Instead of saying you have to come to Independence Television here on this channel, we are where they're at. So we're hopefully not providing any barriers for all this information and everything. But with the streams, that they did have a 3-year window of service that they offered. Our 3-year window expired. So if we want to continue that service, and it's just maintenance, if anything happens, that it's covered in that sense, we're going to go through with that. So we're going to be kind of monitoring this to see if it's something that we do need down the line. At this time, we did renew for 1 year to kind of keep the maintenance on the streams available for us, but it's something that I'm going to see if it's something that we do need, or if it's something that we can ditch later on. But there is an increase in other purchase services from years past, just to kind of cover not only that, but increasing costs to some other services that we use, such as Dropbox and website hosting and everything like that, just to kind of keep up with that. Now, there's never been a problem of us going over budget in this line. As we've talked about, we budget for everything, but we kind of underspend in some areas, so we've been able to move some funds from other budget lines to keep in costs, I guess, with the increase of other purchase services. And other purchase services, for those that don't know, I'm saying that term a lot, but that's just for any I guess, websites or anything that we use that have an annual fee. So examples would be Dropbox, we use Weebly, Squarespace, we use Artlist for our music selections for our videos. Storyblocks is a graphics creation website that we use. So all these different organizations that we use to create these videos, or house our videos, or act as an archive for our videos in meetings and everything like that, that's what falls under other purchase services. So that's why you'll kind of see that increasing this year. I just wanted to let everybody know. So projected capital improvement project was upgrading the production cameras for our full-time staff. Currently we have one mirrorless DSLR, so it's kind of like a smaller camera, non-traditional video camera compared to some others, but we want to try and upgrade those so we continually stay in line with production standards, I guess you could say, or at least our production standards of what we'd like to see from our videos, but also allowing staff to have variety. So, you know, we were out at a shoot recently where we do a 2-camera setup, and 2-camera setup allows us to have 2 different angles for an interview. So if we need to cut out all the uhs and ums like I'm doing right now, we could easily go back and forth with two different cameras. Problem is when you're doing two different cameras, and they're 2 different cameras, you're going to have 2 different coloring settings, 2 different it's just going to look different. So one of the things that we want to do is just make sure that we have, you know, synergy across the line from a production standpoint. So if one person's out shooting here at this event and one person's shooting out here at this event, or we have 2 different people at the same event, everything's going to look the same, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference between the 2 different, you know, shooters. That may sound like a lot, or maybe a want, I guess, from this standpoint, but from a quality standpoint, I think it's something that our staff values, and it's something that we've had on our CIP plan for a while, and I think it's something we can move forward with, given everything that we have done on the capital improvement project list in the last couple of years. So that's something that we're going to be looking at. It's not that high of a capital improvement project. I think we're estimating about $15,000 right now to replace some of the cameras. Not all of them are going to have to be replaced. We've kind of done this in small phases as well. So the big thing is we'll probably just have some additional lenses to purchase and everything, but that gives us just a little wiggle room and maybe some flexibility as far as what we're going to buy and move forward with. So happy to kind of get that process going and for our staff and everything like that. As you can see down at the last bullet point, we're looking at PEG fees. We did see a decrease from $168,656 to $156,664. That's a $37,000 loss in PEG fees since 2022. That's what we've lost consistently. What we were collecting in 22 to now, we're down about $37,000. So when you look at it from that perspective, it is a lot of money, but maybe not as much money as it's being, you know, put out there for. But it's still something to pay attention to. So it's something that we're monitoring every year, mostly every quarter, to see where our PEG fees are coming in at. I know I serve on the Michigan Community Media Association for the state. It's something that we talk about monthly, as far as not only where our PEG fees are, but everybody else is in the state, so we can kind of see from a regional standpoint, oh, is this just us, or is it, you know, just the county, or how is this being affected across the state? Like from a trend perspective, where are we in consideration with other, PEG centers. So that's something that we're monitoring, like I said, monthly from every station, just to kind of still be on top of it and still be aware, so we're not caught off guard by any losses like we were this year from quarter 2 to quarter 3. There was a big drop off, but we were kind of made aware of this by being a part of this group, because everybody else felt that same loss. So it wasn't just something that we saw, it was something that was statewide, where everyone kind of saw that big loss from Q2 to Q3 this year. So it's nice to be a part of that group, that we are kind of in the same boat, but we can also brainstorm different ideas together. So when we're talking about our strategic plan as well, I've already got some great centers in Michigan that I want to reach out to, that they've kind of gone down this path, and I might be able to bring them in as guest speakers and stuff like that to talk to us about what our steps could be. But it's something that we're looking into. So just looking at the budget itself, like I said, everything's not a holdover as it would be, but we are kind of staying consistent with what we have been spending in the past few years. You'll kind of see that conferences are at the same for $10,000. That's if we decide as a staff to go to a conference this year. That would be something that we would look to do, but it also that budget lines for our award submissions if we do anything like that, or if we choose to go anywhere. So telephone on there right now is currently the Comcast account that we have, that is being used to send our signal from our studios to Comcast. We have to pay monthly to send our signal to Comcast. This is something that is embedded in, not to Comcast, to DirecTV. We went with DirecTV to do this. So with DirecTV, they require a separate internet connection to send our signal to them, just because it's an unsecured area, so they need something a little different for this to happen. This is not something unique to us. This is something unique to DirecTV. So typically, before that, we were paying through the T1 lines. That's why it was under the telephone budget lines. There was T1. We have moved off of that. That was in 24, 25, I believe, that we moved off of the T1 lines and went with Comcast for this specific line that we use. So currently, it is about $1,000 a month that we're paying to do this. You'll kind of see that reflected in the budget line. It's still set at $13,735. The reason why I set that for the budget instead of the $12,000 is there has been some issues, or not issues, but sometimes in months where the check doesn't go out in time from the district standpoint to Comcast, and we are assessed a late fee. So I wanted to give us a little bit of cushion in case there is anything like that, where we would have to pay out of that budget line. So if they're wondering why it's not $12,000 instead of $13,000, that would be what we're looking for. So the other purchase services, you can kind of see we have it listed at $21,000 this year. That's kind of matching or in line with what we spent this year, just giving us a little extra room in case we have any increases from our services that we use. Moving down to the next line, supplies, $5,000. That's just general office supplies or anything from a camera equipment, cables, or anything like that we need to buy kind of quickly, I guess you could say, or if something fails, this is the kind of budget line that we would take it out of. Media Camp, we have budgeted for $2,000. We budgeted $2,000 each year for Media Camp, but at this time, we are not pulling from that fund to support Media Camp. Currently, the registration fees from each camper is what supports Media Camp at this time. Now, if we choose to increase Media Camp and do it for an additional week, or do it additional days, I guess you could say, throughout the year, it still would be nice to have this budget line in case we have to pull from it to cover any costs that we have. Initially, we do pull from this account to cover costs of t-shirts. We throw a pizza party. It all comes out of this budget line, but the funds that we raise, you'll notice up at the top, the fundraising line, that's where that money goes. So when we get it back in, so it kind of replenishes itself in a way. As you'll see, we brought in 17. We budgeted for 2,000. So even at that standpoint, we're not exceeding that budget line. So, and I'll get kind of more into the fundraising budget line in a second. But looking at the equipment, less than $5,000, we have $10,000 there, and that's just for, again, any larger purchases that we have from an equipment standpoint. We've had to buy some, replacement stream boxes that we use in our studio that sends our signal out to the internet and everything like that. A couple of years, we've had to replace some tripods that have, gone and everything like that. So that's what that budget line is primarily for. It's just larger equipment expenses, but still under the threshold of $5,000, but not in the supply category. So it's our kind of middle ground, I guess you could say. And then the equipment over $5,000, this is for our capital improvement projects. So anything that we do from a capital improvement project standpoint, it comes out of this budget line. And as you can kind of see with everything, we're listed at right now about 182 from an expense standpoint. That would have been in line with what we had from PEG fees in 24, which is great. But obviously with PEG fees going down, we were at 156. We'll probably be aiming somewhere in that. You'll notice that the final numbers from 24-25, our total operating budget was 144. So as I was kind of alluding to earlier in the meeting, we have been looking at our projected PEG fees, and we have been operating within those means at this time. So where we do have a higher projected budget than what we did in 24-25, 26-27, I do estimate that we will still come under budget this year as we have in the last 3 to 4 years at this point. And with that said, that will have a additional amount come into our fund balance, but looking at it as is, if everything stayed the same, we'd be probably looking at close to $725,000 in our fund balance at this time. Now, with that said, it's nice that we have that money sitting aside. Obviously, from our standpoint, we projected that we wanted to go this route from a budgeting standpoint because we knew PEG fees were diminishing. And we wanted to make sure that we had funds to get us through the dark ages, if you will, of community media. So that's why we have kind of shifted our mindset from an operating standpoint to save more now rather than spend what we can. So we can, if everything went to zero, we would still have funds to operate while we figure things out. If the bottom completely fell out, we wanted to make sure that we still had funds to do so. So with that 724, we're still looking at 3 years operating expenses with no income coming in. So a pretty healthy fund balance at this time. That's something that we've wanted to kind of strive for, is to ensure that we had this available. Not saying that it's going to be like this every year, and there's certainly discussions that we can have that what we can do with our fund balance when maybe our financial outlook looks a little healthier long term. But that's why we're seeing the increases in fund balance each year. I just wanted to make sure the board's aware that there's a purpose of not spending fully and kind of saving for this instance in case there was an instance where we had to pull from it to operate as we are. So I'll jump back up to the revenue side because there is that fundraising line I wanted to kind of touch base on before I get into everything. You'll also notice in the expenditures, we kind of consolidated everything a lot. So we have our student interns, we have the student intern benefits, we have the production coordinator and production assistants. I wanted to kind of separate the production coordinator and the production assistants from a budget standpoint, just to get a better understanding of what we're spending on part-timers each year compared to our full-timers. Our production coordinator, Matt Legato, who's in the back, is our full-time staff, and everybody else falls under the production assistant standpoint. So the reason why we separated that, because it used to be just one line listed EduStaff payments, which is fine because that's where it all comes from. But from my perspective, I just wanted to get a better understanding of where our part-time staff was from a budgetary standpoint. Not that we've ever ran into an issue where we've had to stop people from going out and covering things because we ran out of money on that budget line, but it's just a better understanding for myself of knowing where we're at each month from that area. Lastly, from this budget standpoint, I'm going to jump back up to the fundraising. Another thing that we got to talk with on the school district side is any funds that we brought in, so say our summer camp funds, would be set aside, and those funds would have to be spent in the same calendar year. It was the rule that we were told beforehand. So anything money that we did bring in, it wasn't going to be rolled into our fund balance. If anything, it was something that we had to spend in that calendar year. Moving forward with the school district be able to talk it out, and anything that we do raise from a fund balance standpoint or fundraising standpoint can be rolled into our fund balance moving forward. So if we have any money that we bring in from summer camp or the NFHS streaming contract, we don't have to spend that all in one year. It will be rolled into our general operating fund and our fund balance moving forward. So not that was ever a huge problem, it just gave us an extra budget line that we could take things out of. And, you know, for the summer camp stuff, we would use, you know, the funds. If anything broke, we would have money to fix it. So if, you know, we would have that, but we also have promotional materials that we can use as well from the summer camp fund. But happy to say that with that, it gives it it makes it a little more relaxed, I guess, moving forward. So that is our budget presented at this time for 26-27. I'd be happy to answer any questions in regards to the budget. There's also some other pages afterwards, as you'll kind of see our past activity dating back to 2013 of where we were from an operating standpoint. You can look at most of the budget lines are all very similar from their names. I know they're a little different this year, but just gives you a better picture of where we have been spending and everything like that in our fund balance creation. We also have our CIP project there listed, and that dates back to 2017 and everything that we've done since then, and what we hope to do moving forward with our capital improvement projects. And lastly, the last page you'll kind of see from 2013 until 2025, our PEG fee and franchise fee collections, and just, I guess, seeing the trends of the collection state, and like I said, just monitoring that and making sure we have a good history of our collection through PEG fees and everything like that. So, like I said, at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the proposed budget.
I don't have any questions. I think you do a fantastic job of walking through it. I read it earlier today as well. So I'm always impressed with your professionalism on this.
Thanks.
No questions? Can we?
Well, I guess the only question I would have, because there's a diminishing PEG revenues, is there any other expense we normally have that's going down? Is any technology getting any cheaper?
No, no, it's
Cameras are
not.
getting cheaper, maybe wires and cords, plugs getting cheaper, anything?
No, we got recently the closed captioning for cablecast, which was really great. And it worked on our video on demand and our live streams, but it wasn't popping up on cable. And I was like, golly, why is this not working? And they came back to me and they're like, oh, are you using this kind of encoder to go to cable? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, you have to get this one. Because this one, it actually doesn't work for this system. So you actually have to get this one. And I was like, you know, I'd really like it if I just bought something once and I didn't have to buy something again on top of it every time. So no, expenses are not going down. They're actually going the opposite way. So it's fun that way.
The projection on the EduStaff is really, there are a bunch of increases there, projecting forward at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's really come up a long way. That's a growing thing too. But of course, that represents a value itself, because that's human intelligence.
Right.
Got to have that.
Supposed to. Any other questions or comments?
Nice job, John. Good.
Thank you.
All right, I move to approve the Independence Television budget for the 26-27 school year.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's move on to item number 4, discussion of disposing of assets. And
Yes,
take it away.
this is something I brought last year to the board. It was kind of one of my goals this year to take a better inventory of our equipment that we have, but also assess the equipment that we are not using. And this is a full staff effort that we've been that has been done. I will say that our interns from the summer helped out immensely on putting together this list. So just want to give credit where credit is due on this. But so presented to the board today is we presented two different lists. One list is a list of equipment that we have deemed no longer working and not needed from our staff. A lot of the times, especially with video equipment, a lot of things are just held over and kind of pushed off into the corner. I know the text is extremely small, and I apologize. I had an idea about this, but it passed me. But from this standpoint, we put together a list of all the equipment that we've kind of gathered in the last 10 years and have deemed, and we put it off into kind of different piles in the studio, and we said, we'll let this kind of sit for a year, and if we need to go back at it to get anything, well, then we know that we need it. And if we don't, we know that we don't need it, and it's no longer valuable. Now, the stuff that's on this list, I would say, is not suitable for resale either. I know sometimes that brings a question of should we sell this equipment or anything like that. In my professional opinion and my suggestion that this would just be a list of disposal and not resale. So I know this is a very large list, and we kind of went through it with make, model, serial number if available, asset tag if available. We did cross it with the township's asset list because there is some equipment that is strictly township purchased, so we have to go through a different process for disposing of assets on that side. So we did cross-reference their list with this list, and this is kind of what we presented. So moving forward, we will have this list set aside of our current equipment that we have when it was purchased. We might be adding purchase price in or not, I'm not sure yet, but just a working list of all the equipment that we do have and potentially the model number, serial number, and when it was purchased. So if anybody does need to reference a piece of equipment, they can go back to our equipment log list. So what I'm asking for from the board is just, I guess, approval to dispose of all the assets that are listed on the page. If you have any questions, about any particular equipment, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge. But like I said, a lot of it has been deemed not working. And if there is any that is working, we might set it off to the side and come back to the board for approval of sale if we think it's worth it. But from my memory of what has been listed here, this has been carefully crafted by the staff of things that are just taking up space in our studio at this time. So just looking to do a little spring cleaning, I guess.
No real a motion to approve, but
Is there any questions? Does anybody have?
It's an amazing list.
You could read that?
We bought all this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we used all this stuff.
There's
And
a lot of it that is just, it's no longer working, or it's like, oh, that monitor works, but it takes a old adapter that we don't use anymore, you don't have technology with anymore. So there's some of that stuff that's just, whether it works or doesn't, it's like John was saying, it's kind of obsolete in some way, shape, or form.
The last time we had an inventory sale, what happened to the proceeds? Remember, when we closed the studio over on Mabee Road, we got rid of a lot of things. And I can't remember where is really old tech. It like has no value. I've got a closet full of this stuff too.
You missed the NOHAS event, I think.
Yeah.
I did. I missed the no-has days.
Okay, go ahead. Want to make a motion?
motion to approve asset disposal.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, and I'll work on the text size next time, or at least give you guys magnifying glasses from the dollar store. Maybe with the proceeds we get from a monitor or something. I don't know. Thank you.
So our last item agenda is presentation from John. He will be doing the quarterly production update from January through March 2026. And
Yes.
also Matt.
Thank you very much. I always like to thank the board for this time, because I know I want to be appreciative of your time, but I also just want to give you insight as far as everything that we do as a staff, because there's some things that, might go unnoticed as far as the day-to-day stuff. So I always like to highlight everything that we're doing as a staff, so you're just well informed as a board member. So thank you very much. So looking at the serving the community from the cable, live, and online perspective, as I stated earlier, we're working with DirecTV and Comcast and ensuring our new closed captioning can be received on their end. At this time, it has been suggested that we do get those new encoders in the back. It would probably cost us about $1,100 right now to replace the encoders that we have. It's a little frustrating, is because we had to buy one originally to replace them for our HD signals that we got a couple years ago. So we're going to be kind of monitoring this. This is all in. Oh, sorry about that.
I'll just see if I can make it.
This is all in to become compliant with the new ADA digital laws that are coming up. I guess good news you could say is that recently the laws that were put in place for ADA digital compliance was originally 2027 for us. It has been now moved to 2028. So we have some extra time to become fully compliant with all of the new laws that are coming up for video, for websites and all that stuff. So it was great to be proactive about this, and happy that we've taken the first few steps, but we have a little additional time to kind of move forward. So there's not a huge need to move quickly on the replacement of the encoders, but it's something that we are going to kind of do in the next few months if we can. So from the live standpoint, we did replace a PoE switch in our road unit that was showing signs of inconsistency, sending video signals back to the studio. We thought that was the fix. I don't know if it is yet, but we replaced it, so that's good. For those that don't know, we from a sports standpoint, we operate everything out of our studio in the school, but we have all of our cameras up in the press box, and we're sending a camera signal through internet back down to our studio, and that's receiving the signal. We've been having a lot of inconsistencies, especially since I'd say November, December, winter sports, I'd say, where it's just not working as smoothly as it used to. So we've been trying to figure out what the problem is through different tests. We thought it was the switch that might have gone bad. It was about 5 years old. We consulted the IT staff at the township just to kind of get their brains working on it as well. So we went with a different switch. It's working great. It didn't solve the problem though, so we have some more troubleshooting to go through to figure out why this is happening. I know we have one sporting event left. I'm sure everything will work perfectly that one sporting event, and off we go till fall. So that's just how everything seems to work. But looking at online as well, we've officially added closed captioning to our live streams, as said, and our video on demand site. We're adding these to just new programming at this time, so we're not going back to old programming to add closed captioning and all that stuff. It's just as it comes in, it'll get closed captioning, and this is just currently for our own produced program. So if we have anything submitted from the public, which we do have, we will not be closed captioning at this time. And that's mostly to see because we purchased a block of 500 hours for closed captioning. I want to see how far that 500 hours gets us. Just mapping out from the meeting coverages and everything we do. And not only is this video on demand, but this is also live. So if you're watching live on our live streams and everything like that, say this meeting right now, you'll be able to see live captioning go across your screen from Cablecast, which is good. So that's something that we implemented in March. Everything's been going good from the online standpoint. From my perspective, from what we've seen, the captioning's pretty darn accurate, which is great. No cause for concern, I guess, from the stuff that we purchased. But we really just want to monitor how far 500 hours is going to get us, and then probably reassess purchasing if we need to purchase more, purchase less, how that's going to go. The good news about this is it's not something that expires at the end of the year. It just kind of rolls over until we use it all. So it'll be nice to see, as I stated, we purchased it in March of 2026. We'll see where we sit in a year or so if that's still doing us well. And in summer camp, down there it says we have 12 registered so far for our July camp. That's actually increased. We're up to 19, so we have one spot left right now. I'd say we ran at 20 people last year, and given the amount of staff that we'll have for summer camp this year, I'd say 20 is probably our max at this point, depending on how many interns we get and everything like that. So summer camp registration is going as smooth as possible. at this point. And people register through our website at independencetelevision.com. So we have a whole separate tab where you can register for that. The good news is, I think of the 19, good news or bad news, however you want to look at it, but the news of the 19 that are registered, 12 of them attended last year. So we have a lot of repeat campers coming back, and some of them have been coming for, we have, I think, 3 that have came all 4 years that we've been doing this in this iteration. So nice to kind of see that. We have multiple that have done it 3 years, 2 years, but that also leaves a nice window of first-timers this year too. So we'll have more about that at our next meeting, but summer camp is off to a really good start. So looking at our production update, we'll start with a familiar face there at the bottom screen. From the public standpoint, we'll start with public as we traditionally do. We started a new show with John, Leadership Basics, and we also do Connecting Clarkston inside the studio. We've recorded 9 episodes of Connecting Clarkston, I believe at the end of March, and I believe, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, we've recorded or are going to be recording a total of 17 episodes so far this year. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt can probably correct me too if I'm off on that, but along with the Michigan Moments that staff has produced, that's 29 studio shows in 3 months. Just to give that in perspective, in 2025 we did 36 in total for the year. So we are off to a high pace of studio shows, which is really great. It's something we have not seen in a while, which is something that I really like seeing, because it's residents utilizing the resource that we have here at Independence Television and producing out more content. We also started a project with the Clarkston Independence Township America 250 Committee to record various members of the community reading the Declaration of Independence. I anticipate that'll be done sometime in May. We have a few spots that we're still waiting to record, but that project is off and running as well. So something that we hope to, I said, act as kind of like a fun time capsule of our community for this anniversary celebration of our country. And it'll be kind of neat to see how many voices we've put together from our community to read this document. So something to kind of watch for. You can kind of see in the bottom corner as well other events that we've covered with the traveling exhibit, Winterfest. We did an author talk at the high school, Women in Business. We have done one ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce, and Easter on the Farm with the Clarkston Family Farm. So moving on to education, I'll hand it off to Matt here in a second to kind of talk about the classes and everything that we've going on. But one of the big things is our NFHS contract we actually utilized already, which was great. We are still working with the school district on payment process, because there is a process to get paid, and we want to make sure that we do it properly. So there is a process that we have initiated, and I think we are almost complete. We'll be able to receive payment for the game that we did. We received I shouldn't say we, our announcer Ryan received a message from the Clarkston girls basketball team. This had to have been in March. They had a playoff game in Davisburg, I believe, that the MHSAA did not assign a video crew to, and they had no way of watching this game, or the people had no way of watching this game. So he called us up and asked us essentially, like, can you guys stream this game at all for us? And a year ago the answer would be no, because it's playoffs. The broadcast rights stay with MHSAA. But since we had this contract, I said, well, I think we actually can do this one. So I contacted MHSAA. They said only if you can only do this if you're associated with this. I said we are associated with this, and they said, oh great, yeah, then you can do it. I was kind of hoping for more of a, hey, thanks for saving our butts last minute. That didn't come. But so after we initiated our gear to make sure the software from NFHS was compatible and ready, because I didn't want to get to the site and it not work. We took a camera out there, we took a laptop, and we had an announcer. We set it all up, and we probably had about 5 minutes before tip with everything set and ready. And we got the numbers in. We had about 460 views just from that game, which is really great. We had a lot of people come up to us afterwards thanking us for kind of stepping in last minute to provide a way for people to watch this game, because it didn't fall in Clarkston's favor, which kind of was a bummer. It was a close game there, but for some it was their last game that they ever played, and Grandma and Grandpa got to watch. And that's exactly what we kind of wanted to set out to do with this kind of contract, not only to find additional revenue sources, because that's what this is once we get the payment process all set and everything like that, but it just allows us a little bit more flexibility to broadcast these games and present some more options for our community. So just a big kudos to staff and everything like that for pulling this together and kind of stepping in when our community needed us to do this important game. So, but looking at that, I'll kind of run through the PMTV production stats, and I'll hand it off to Matt. We did 5 basketball games, 2 lacrosse games, and 2 soccer games. Along with the live sports, the class was also able to broadcast out a pep rally, 6 school announcements, and College Night 101. So a lot has been going on, and we still have a lot coming up as well. So Matt, I'll happily hand it off to you.
Sure. Yeah, as John was saying, we had a lot of events coming up. We have Kaya, Clarkston Area Youth Awards. We have the Senior Awards. We have Clarkston Renaissance graduation coming up. Still squeezing a soccer game, I believe, in our near future. We've been asked about helping with some movie nights, so we're looking into some logistics of that still. So yeah, it's that typical end of the year rush. In terms of the classes, my media students, the intro class, they're working on their last 2 big projects right now. Advanced class at Renaissance is finishing stuff up. Same with the advanced class at Clarkston, finishing stuff up. Seniors are, their time's ticking away. They got less than 4 weeks before seniors are out of there. Some of them are winding down a little bit, so hopefully they don't wind down too much further so they can finish strong. But most are moving at a pretty good clip there. Middle school classes. This was the first year we were doing the middle school classes. When I was first told I was going to middle school for an hour, the first 2 things I said were first, that could be beneficial for the high school program down the line. And second, I've never taught middle schoolers before. What does that kind of look like? So it's been a very different experience, but I've now done 3 of the 4 quarters. At the end of the quarters, I have the students do like a little exit survey. One of the questions is, do you think you'll take media classes at the high school? Yes, no, or unsure. And mostly it is yeses and unsures. There's the occasional no, and sometimes when you look at the names, you're like, maybe that's okay that one doesn't join me again. But maybe they'll change their minds, or who knows. But obviously they're 7th graders now, so we'll see what happens. I try to promote that, hey, you can take this class as a 9th grader. They'll bus you over to the high school for this, so I'll be curious to see which one of these kids, like with every class, there's a couple kids that you're like, okay, you're having fun, you're doing this stuff, and there's some kids that they have like the script before you asked for it. They're really thinking of shots. You can tell like this is something they're interested in. So I hope that exposure they get at the middle school translates to higher numbers at the high school level, especially. And me being at Renaissance and Clarkston, it's kind of like, hey, wherever you end up going, you could still take media with me. You could still advance that skill set. Something else, kind of a fun thing for senior awards. The last couple of years, Career and Technical Education Department as a whole has kind of given out 1 award. I kind of talked to admin and stuff, and I said, we're such kind of a big department, we kind of doesn't make sense for us to do only 1 award, so we really want to expand that, and they were okay with that. So CT collectively, I think, is now going to give out 4 awards, which is kind of nice, because before it was, we could give 1 award for, CT is like media, marketing, architecture, construction, computer tech, family studies, nutrition. What's the one kid that represents the best of all that? It's kind of tough to pick one because that's such a big section. So we're dividing that up a little bit more. So I think CT and some of those students will get a little more recognized for their achievements in those courses. I don't think there's anything else to mention off the top of my head. I think those are the big things. So yeah, we just got that last couple weeks of seniors to really push through and then, get closer and closer to that summer vacation.
Moving on to the government side, happy to announce that we received the Media Advocate Award from the Michigan Recreation Parks Association. This is for the work that we did for the Independence Township Parks, Rec, and Seniors in the past year. So we got to go to the conference in Lansing in March to accept the award. It was really nice and humbling experience to do so, and happy to spend a lot of time with our park staff, and always great to create videos, but even better when the people you create the videos for really like them too and find value in them as well. So that was really great to be a part of. Also, production coordinator Matt Legato produced 2 training videos for the Springfield Fire Department, both focusing on cardiovascular emergencies. So happy to still continue that partnership with Springfield, and Matt always does a fantastic job creating those videos and coordinating with that. On top of that, we also recorded 4 presentations at the Senior Community Center, a seminar for the Clinton River Watershed Council with DPW, and a town hall for the rental ordinance with the Building Planning and Zoning Department. So keeping busy with the government side. Looking on to social media, we have seen a decline in our general reach, I'd say, in social media since January, but following the trends that we have over the past couple of years, we typically see a decline this quarter compared to last quarter. We just always have a lot more engaging events and everything from October, November, December compared to January, February, March. So we do see, I would say this is pretty normal to kind of see this trend or wave. So no cause for concern, I'd really say, from this standpoint. You'll kind of see a little bit of the notes there for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube with Independence Television's YouTube page, just about the decrease. But we have had multiple videos reach over 1,000 views across social media. So we're still keeping our audience in a way. It's just, like I said, it's something that we continually see. But from YouTube standpoint, we gained 34 subscribers. I think I noted either last meeting or not, but we should be nearing some milestone following markers for YouTube and Facebook and Instagram this year. So something to kind of keep track of as we keep busting forward towards some nice milestones from a social media standpoint. But just from this past quarter, a little lull, but as expected. Looking at what's next, we have Military Signing Day coming up on May 7th. We have the Clarkston Community Awards on May 13th. That'll be live, so will Military Signing Day. And then also live, we'll have Clarkston High School graduation and a ton of stuff in between. It's just not the 3, but these are 3 of our kind of larger events that we do and highlight. But yeah. Next, we have Kids Summer Camp. As stated before, we're doing Kids Summer Camp again this year from July 15th through the 17th. Registration is open. I think I noted we have, 1 spot as of right now open before we go to a wait list again this year. So happy to see that people are still interested in our camp. It should be fun. We've got some new ideas, same ideas that we're going to bust out for this thing and make sure that it's fun and fun for everybody this year. So, and that'll also be working with Independence Township Parks, Recs, and Seniors to provide a movie night to end camp like we have been doing for the past couple of years. So something fun for the family as well, not just kids. But at this time, I appreciate everything. Any questions from the production standpoint? Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
So no questions? Okay, well, we're going to go on to G, public comment. Any members of the public would like to address us, limiting your comments to no more than 5 minutes regarding items that do not appear on the agenda. So come on up and you want to go to the podium and give us your name and address, please?
We're also
We're very excited. We have
You
public
said what?
comment, so.
What did you need me?
Pardon?
Name and address?
Name and address, yes.
Okay. Amber Berry, 8011 Pine Forest Court, Davisburg, Michigan. And just a quick question for Matt. You listed a bunch of things that you're covering for the seniors. Is the senior walk also covered this year?
Yeah, we normally live stream the senior walk as well. We've had to get a little creative with camera placement sometimes years in the past because, surprise, surprise, kids aren't always appropriate when they know a camera's live streamed.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I think what we've done in the past is we've kind of used them like a phone or a tablet, and I think we sometimes had Matt Legato, our production coordinator, stand kind of by administration.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
that way, less likely to have any of those kind of
Understandable.
disturbances. So yes, we do plan on live streaming the senior walk this year.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't do online here, right? Do we do online? Do we have anybody that could possibly, I didn't think so, okay. Board member comments. Any members of the board that would like to have any comments before we adjourn?
I'll just add something, and I know I've talked a lot, but I'll keep it kind of brief. But we have been meeting with the Michigan Community Media Association, and I will say that there is some positive talks coming out of the state from of potential new language that we can get behind that would be modernizing PEG collection. There's nothing to report at this time as nothing's concrete, but as I've kind of told Matt, usually when we meet with this group, the discussions are really doom and gloom, and it's not as fun to go to those meetings. But this one was. We had a lot of good conversations, good discussions, but we also have some good support and advocates in the state, which we haven't always had. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying that I think communities in the state of Michigan are starting to realize the decrease in franchise fees and PEG fees, and they're starting to see that number in their budgets, and now they want to start doing something about it. So I don't have an update as far as anything that's being presented, but I just wanted to put that out there that we are working with the Michigan Community Media Association, and things are looking positive. So once I have more concrete information or anything that we could support as a board, I'll happily bring it to the board. But just wanted to share some good news from that front. From a legislative standpoint, we did go to Lansing in April to kind of brainstorm some ideas. We met with some other, I didn't personally, but other people met with representatives at the state capitol and everything like that and talked with that. Mike Harris is very familiar with our operation and visited not too long ago, so I've gotten to talk to him a little bit about this stuff and phone calls. He's always very generous with his time. So it's something that we are kind of staying on top of from a legislative standpoint to ensure that not only are the laws that are currently in place being read properly, but that we modernize the laws that are currently in the state to reflect the times that we're living in now. So there are some positive talks coming out of the state from a community media standpoint that we might be able to pay attention to by the end of the year. So,
Thank you. Anybody else?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.